deforestation is another, and the third one is exploitation of natural resources for purposes of, you know, for production of wealth and basically production of food for those who are hungry.
Just for the record, Mr. President, for perhaps a scientific definition of climate change, if you would allow.
Yes, please, Your Honor.
Climate change refers to a change in the state of the climate that can be identified by changes in the mean and or the variability of its properties, and that persists for an extended period, typically decades or longer. Climate change may be due to natural internal processes or external forcings, as you mentioned, or to persistent anthropogenic changes in the composition of the atmosphere or inland use. A bit technical, Mr. President, but just for the
yes,
record.
that is the technical definition. Yes, I agree. And however, for to put it simply, and this was forwarded by the different scientists that presented the matter in Kuala Lumpur about 1.5 months ago or 2 months ago, that climate change, because we have to separate or distinguish the change in the climate caused by man and the change in the climate caused by nature.
Yes, Mr. President.
And for ease of distinction, they are using the definition of climate change as caused by man and variable climate as caused by nature.
Yes.
So let's focus on climate change, Your Honor, because change in the climate caused by nature, we cannot do anything about it.
That's true.
But man can still do something about change in climate caused by man's activity, such as the use of fossil fuel. Deforestation is fossil fuel and deforestation are the two major cause of the greenhouse gas emissions, and others like the use of fertilizers and other exploitative exploitation of natural resources contribute the rest. Now, Your Honor, I agree that we have to give our contribution. Maybe reforestation should be such one activity that we can enter into, and probably I would even agree that biofuels could be resorted to. But then again, as I said, not at the expense
I agree with you,
of
Mr.
the
President.
production of food
I
for
agree
our
with you,
people.
Mr. President. I, however, do not think that it should be an and/or scenario, Mr. President. I believe that we can provide for the food needs and be productive in terms of food production, Mr. President. At the same time, implement the newly passed Biofuels Act and see to it that the environment is safeguarded as well. Just like I think economic development can be had with sustainable development and responsible use of our resources, I don't think it should be an either-or scenario, Mr. President, where food will be negated if the environment is protected through the implementation of a newly enacted law.
Again, I repeat, Your Honor, I have nothing against the implementation of the biofuels. All I'm asking is that we defer the implementation until after we are assured that all our production of biofuel will not put into jeopardy our capability to produce the food that our people need. According to our agriculturists, we are capable. Right now, we are producing 9 million metric tons of rice a year. Our consumption is 12 million metric tons a year, or we are short of anywhere from 2 metric tons to 3 metric tons, depending probably on the visitations of weather and other such factors. Now, according to our, again, as I said, according to our agriculturists, we are capable with the land that we have, in spite of what Dr. Ziegler is saying. Ziegler of IRRI, IRI, is saying that we are short of land. We are not. Because if we adopt all the measures for us to attain food self-sufficiency, we will be able to produce with what we have right now, with the introduction of like technology, introduction of access to credit to our farmers, introduction of when I say technology, we have reference to the adaptation of rice varieties, like the hybrid rice against the inbred rice, the use of fertilizer, etc., etc. Now, Mr. President, Your Honor, I therefore reiterate my position that we need first to address our food security. I'll ask a question. If indeed the Philippines is categorized within the 1% of the rest of Asia, insofar as greenhouse gas emission is concerned, how much percentage of that would be further reduced if we adopt the greenhouse gas, the biofuels?
Mr. President, I would not want to hazard a guess on that answer because it would entail some scientific explanations. But all I can say in response to your earlier question about the Kyoto Protocol is that there are various mechanisms which will allow the Kyoto Protocol, which will allow several countries to make them comply with the lowering of greenhouse gas emissions. And one mechanism is a clean development mechanism on which the Philippines can avail of, and in fact, it is availing of that. What is a CDM, or Clean Development Mechanism, Mr. President? It is a mechanism by which a developing country like the Philippines may participate in terms of the carbon credit scheme. What is this? It is not only a means for developing countries to be an instrument for developed countries to meet their commitment, but it also means for them to achieve sustainable development. Earlier, you mentioned about, of course, big countries like and heavily populated countries like India, China, and the U.S. and Europe, and you gave percentages on their contribution towards the degradation of our environment. They may avail, together with a third world developing country like the Philippines, using the CDM, which was provided for in the Kyoto Protocol, where a certain number of hectarage, for example, will be reforested, or an environmental project in the Philippines will be approved by the United Nations as a CDM project, and this the counterpart of that, the carbon credits, will be attributed to the accomplishment, for lack of a better word, to call it, of that developing country. And I think there are clean development mechanisms, projects going on, CDM projects going on in China. There are a few pending projects pending with the United Nations here in the Philippines. If I'm not mistaken, is it the Yangtze River where there is a CDM project in China? I know that there is a wind project in Ilocos Norte that is pending application in the United Nations.
Yes.
That is how there is interaction between a small developing country, which probably contributes only X percentage to global warming, but it can help the bigger countries fulfill its noble obligations to humankind to improve the earth by doing those projects in developing countries like the Philippines.
In the program for carbon sequestration and or program of reduction of the greenhouse gas emission, are we looking at development of alternative fuels other than the use of fossil fuel?
Mr. President, I'm sure that there are certain standards or for CDMs to be approved. I know that anything that would improve or reduce greenhouse gases would be approved. I don't have the criteria of the United Nations, but I'm sure that they would have certain standards and criteria to be met. And yes, I think alternative to fossil fuel, of course, projects which would which would provide alternative